This guy is our main character. One beautiful day, his clan was suddenly and falsely accused, so he decided to enter the palace to investigate. Using his SSS-level disguise skills, he slipped into the royal palace with ease, but somehow he accidentally wandered into the emperor's room and uncovered a shocking secret. The emperor was actually a woman pretending to be a man. Impressed by his top-tier disguise abilities, the emperor forced him to impersonate her in order to deal with her 20 wives. Seeing that it was a pretty sweet deal, he immediately agreed, and without further ado, let's get started. The story begins when Changqing, master of the Su family, sneaks into the palace hoping to uncover evidence that could clear the Su family's name. However, Changqing was a certified waste of sperm who only cared about inheriting the Su family's wealth. He immediately noticed a palace maid and tossed something into the water beside her. Once she was distracted, Changqing reached down and revealed the stuff of nightmares. His face. The maid's soul left her body on the spot, so Changqing planned to borrow her appearance. He transformed into a girl, imitating the maid's uniform, but came out extra small since it was his first attempt at being female. After adjusting, Changqing began roaming the palace for the case files, only to accidentally wander into the emperor's chamber. There, a woman's voice asked who was present. Changqing claimed to be the emperor's servant and said he had gotten lost, but the woman didn't believe him and demanded to know who he truly was. At that point, Changqing decided to knock her out and charged toward her. A dagger suddenly flew toward him and nearly sliced off his third leg. Changqing was stunned to discover the girl had a guard with her the entire time. The guard lunged at him and sliced part of his robe. As he dodged her attacks, he noticed the royal robe nearby and realized what was going on. He then got smacked hard by the guard and landed beside the girl, whom he realized was the emperor. He was shocked to discover the emperor was actually a woman, while the girl, Jinnu, wondered if he was really a man. Jinnu was sure she had heard a male voice earlier, so she decided to test her theory by checking whether Changqing had any wood. Panicking, Changqing barely escaped and confessed to being nothing more than a lowly thief. Jinnu then ordered her guard to stand down, saying he clearly didn't have enough balls to assassinate her. She asked if he really thought she would let him leave, but Changqing had his own methods. He shape-shifted into the male version of the emperor and warned Jinnu that others might discover her true gender. He then asked which version people would believe more, her as the emperor or him. Jinnu warned that she could have him unalived for daring to negotiate, but Changqing threatened to expose her secret. Jinnu's expression darkened as she prepared to call for help, shouting that there was an assassin inside the palace. The guards outside rushed in, causing Changqing to panic, but when they burst through the door, they mistook him for the emperor and moved to protect him. Later, Jinnu's guard announced the assassin had been captured and dismissed the soldiers, leaving the two alone again. Suddenly, Jinnu ran out calling Changqing His Majesty, asking if he was unharmed. Changqing wondered how she dared to rush out wearing women's clothing, but Jinnu suddenly grabbed him and celebrated his safety. She suggested he return to the palace and rest, leaving Changqing thoroughly confused. Later, Changqing waited in a room, wondering why Jinnu didn't just let him leave. He then noticed the Su family's documents and questioned why they were inside the emperor's chamber. As he looked through them, he found a mountain of evidence and witnesses accusing the Su family, yet he was certain they were innocent. Suddenly, he heard someone approaching and hid the case files. Turning around, he saw the emperor's consort, Bing, who claimed she was there to serve him. Changqing put on his giggity face, but then wondered how a female emperor ended up with consorts. Bing abruptly threw a tantrum, insisting he could take her body but would never win her heart. Growing frustrated, Changqing wondered what her problem was until he noticed her earrings and realized she was the princess of the Northern Bai tribe, presented to the emperor as a gift. Changqing realized Bing could cause trouble, especially since he still needed to clear the Su family's name. He told Bing he wasn't in the mood and suggested she rest early, but this only triggered her further as she demanded to know why he had gone through so much trouble for her. Annoyed, Changqing grabbed her hand and pushed her onto the bed. As he leaned over her, he pinned her hands so her melons were fully displayed. Rubbing her thigh, he asked what she thought he planned to do. Bing demanded to know what he was trying to pull. So Changqing reminded her he didn't need her heart, only her body. Realizing her first time might go to such an ugly face, Bing fainted. At that exact moment, the female emperor walked in, causing Changqing to kiss enough of her rear end to contract a sty. The emperor simply said Bing was one of her consorts. Changqing bowed immediately and insisted she was far too beautiful to be handled by a mere commoner. Jinnu called for her guard to remove the traumatized Bing. She then asked if he hadn't taken Bing's V-card because he preferred men, causing Changqing's nose to bleed. He quickly changed the topic and suggested she must have some other purpose for him besides plowing her consorts. Jinnu agreed, explaining she didn't want anyone discovering her identity, then asked who he thought would die first if her secret got out. Changqing admitted he'd be the first to be executed. So Jinnu grabbed him and demanded to know why he dared break into the imperial palace. Changqing debated whether to mention the Su family matter but feared she would use it as leverage. She had never seen his real face, so she couldn't learn his real identity, but it also made him question why the Su family case files had been in her room. Jinnu then proposed he use his disguise abilities to help her for 3 years, and she would grant him anything he wanted in return. She gave him until the next day to decide, opening a secret passage as she left. She tossed him a book containing the palace's hidden passageways and warned him to keep it confidential. Inside, Changqing found descriptions of Bing that made him want to slide under the covers with a sock. The next morning, Jinnu attended the morning court session where a man accused the Su family of causing a rat plague. Jinnu recognized the family name and realized Changqing had been amusing her lately. She then announced that her consort's quarters had been infiltrated by an assassin, and that would be her priority for now. Jinnu's guard stepped closer to offer help, but Jinnu said she was fine without assistance. Meanwhile, Changqing lounged in the emperor's room when another consort, Zhang, arrived, concerned about the emperor's health. Changqing suspected Jinnu was up to something again, but since Zhang wanted to care for him, he figured he might finally enjoy the perks of being emperor. He remembered the book describing Zhang as flirtatious, and sure enough, she was already offering to feed him porridge with her own spoon. Yet Zhang was actually incredibly manipulative, so he told her he's still tied up with work and tells her to just leave the food. But Zhang worries he won't like what she cooked and urges him to at least taste it first. Before she can feed him, another consort named Luo shows up. The moment Luo and Zhang lock eyes, they immediately start beefing, while Changqing wonders how many cheeks he's expected to defile today. Zhang tells Luo she can take her rice cakes back since the emperor's mouth would already be full with her cream, but Luo fires back that there's nothing special about Zhang's tea or rice cakes anyway. Changqing tries to separate them by saying he'll eat both of their buns. Yet Luo still isn't satisfied. She grabs one of her cakes and jams it into Changqing's mouth. Luo claims it was just a leftover from the kitchen, but she still asks how it tastes. As Changqing chews, he suddenly remembers something important from the book. Luo is considered the greatest beauty in the capital, and when she entered the palace, many men snapped their brushes in heartbreak. Still, even though Jinnu thinks she's gorgeous, she's apparently even more useless than he is. Zhang announces she'll be taking her leave, which makes Luo happy, until someone else enters and scares both girls straight into Changqing's arms. It turns out to be another consort named Xia, making Changqing wonder how Jinnu managed to pull so many baddies without even having the proper equipment. Then Changqing notices yet another food box and can't bear the thought of another bite. When Xia sees his reaction, she tells the other girls they should leave the emperor to work while the three of them have a pleasant chat. Luo looks terrified of Xia and offers to go back to the palace first. She trips and falls on her way out, but eventually her 2 left feet cooperate and she scurries away. Zhang also seems uneasy around Xia and quickly volunteers to leave first, abandoning Changqing alone with Xia. When Changqing looks at Xia, he realizes Jinnu's harem must truly be legendary based on their beauty. He's shocked she managed to bag someone as gentle as Xia and even hopes Jinnu chooses her as the empress. Unfortunately, when Changqing checks the book, he discovers Xia is extremely calculating and the most likely person to uncover his flaws, meaning he needs to keep far, far away from her. Later, Jinnu comes to see Changqing. When he tries addressing her as Your Highness, She gets annoyed and forces him to call her his consort instead. Then she asks if he's decided to accept the deal. Changqing agrees since Jinwoo is the only person who can free his family, so she asks for his real name. When he tells her it's Changqing, she orders him to try copying her female form. Instantly, Changqing shapeshifts to match Jinwoo, down to her clothes. Jinwoo is impressed that he even nailed her jiggle physics, but she sits him down and points out that his hair is wrong and too recognizable. Moments later, she admits it's her first time styling someone else's hair. Once she's done, she calls it flawless. Then she informs Changqing that she is the emperor now, making Changqing wonder who he's supposed to be. Jinwoo explains that he is now her consort and it's his turn to attend the bedchamber tonight. Moments later, she dumps a pile of memorials in front of Changqing, who insists the deal was only for him to pretend to be the emperor. Changqing says everyone knows it's the consort's turn to get railed by the emperor, so this is the perfect time for him to review memorials and practice her handwriting. Changqing suggests switching back into the emperor's form since he needs to handle the memorials. Jinwoo agrees and starts changing clothes but warns him to never transform without her permission again. While Jinwoo complains about the hair she had just styled, Changqing changes back into the emperor. She tells him to grind his own ink, and they sit down to discuss the work. Changqing practices her handwriting, and Jinwoo is impressed by how quickly he copied it. Since he's so capable, she tells him all the memorials must be reviewed that same day before she heads off to rest. After working through them, Changqing says there are 3 cases requiring Jinwoo's personal decision, including the Su family case. Jinwoo decides the first 2 easily and asks about the Su family matter. Changqing explains it seems to involve hidden secrets and asks for her thoughts. Jinwoo instructs him to issue an order delaying the investigation. Just then, Changqing notices someone hiding outside. Jinwoo casually explains it's just her good sister, who came to assassinate the emperor. Changqing's face swells up like a startled frog when he hears this and asks why her good sister would want to kill her. Sure enough, Changqing sees Bing creeping around in the bushes, so he tells Jinwoo to handle it herself. But Jinwoo gets an evil idea and starts crying out dramatically for the emperor not to come any closer. Changqing decides to play along and scoops her up, telling her not to waste his expensive spray and scented sheets. Jinwoo can't believe how bold Changqing is, so she tells him to be gentle since it's her first time. When Bing hears this, she charges in to save Jinwoo from the supposed dragon in Changqing's pants. Changqing doesn't know what to do next, so Jinwoo tells him to do whatever is necessary as she pretends to be a terrified consort. Bing's bloodlust focuses right on Changqing's zipper, so he warns her she'll face consequences for brandishing a weapon at him. He grabs Jinwoo and threatens to strangle her if Bing steps any closer. Bing begs him to let her sister go, but he demands she drop the sword first. When Bing insists on fighting, Changqing tells Jinwoo to call her guards since he doesn't know how to fight. At this, Jinwoo steps in, grabs Bing's hand, and tells her to apologize before it's too late. Bing argues that it was fine if the emperor ravaged her body, but not Jinwoo's. Jinwoo tells her that even if she succeeded and rescued her, the emperor would surely bring disaster down on Bing and her entire family. Only then does Bing finally drop her sword and comply. Moments later, both sisters kneel before Changqing as Jinwoo begs him to spare Bing's life. Changqing realizes Jinwoo wants him to forgive her, but when he starts to agree, he sees the deadly glare Jinwoo is shooting at him. He quickly changes course and warns Jinwoo that she might die for daring to defend Bing. Jinwoo takes full responsibility and offers to serve him as repayment. Changqing tries to stay calm even though he's fighting off a stroke from seeing Jinwoo on her knees. He then tells Bing that, as punishment, she must allow her sister to serve him. He tells her to imagine how much her sister will suffer on her behalf, and Bing immediately pictures Beauty and the Creep, the rated R edition. Bing then volunteers to serve Changqing as well, but he worries he doesn't have enough liquid children to handle that many demands. The 2 lunatics strike at the same time. He then insists he can't let someone who once tried to kill him serve him, and tells her to leave. Bing tries to protest, but Jinwoo assures her she'll be fine and sends her away. Later, Changqing apologizes to Jinwoo for using her as a shield, saying it was the only way to stop that white-haired maniac. Jinu asks how he felt when he held her. Su Changqing quickly assures her his pants stayed loose and dry. In response, Jinu warns him not to touch her casually unless it's a truly special circumstance. She adds that this will be good training for Bing, who gets tricked by others far too easily. With that settled, Jinu tells him to get back to reviewing memorials. The next morning, Jinu praises the emperor for being so diligent and reminds him not to overwork himself. Changqing's soul practically hangs off his body as he begs for a break. So Jinu suggests they switch places. After switching, Jinu immediately announces she'll be taking a break and tells her servants to cancel the morning asam. As she leaves, Changqing begins throwing a tantrum, while Bing returns, looking around for Jinu. Later, in Jinu's chamber, Bing apologizes to Changqing for causing trouble. Changqing tries to calm her, but Bing points out that Jinu now has a child too. She then promises to take care of Jinu's child along with her own. Changqing asks what exactly she means by child, knowing perfectly well that nothing of his has ever escaped his trousers. Bing then explains that the elder told her a man and woman who sleep while holding hands will have a baby. Bing asks if Jinu is worried about giving birth to a good baby, but Changqing can't believe how little she understands about how babies are made. He then attempts to explain that holding hands while sleeping is nowhere near enough to make a child. Bing is shocked to hear this, and Changqing realizes he's dealing with the intelligence level of a fetus. Still, he wonders why Jinu is acting like she's close sisters with Bing, when their groups don't get along. Changqing debates whether he should ask Bing directly for information, but that might risk exposing himself. While he's deep in thought, Bing asks how a baby is actually made. Changqing tries to wiggle out of answering, but Bing begs him with big puppy eyes. In response, Changqing asks whether she's heard the story of the STS. Back at the Emperor's chambers, Jinu is resting when she's informed that Imperial Dr. Zhu has arrived to greet the Emperor. Jinu tells him to check why she isn't feeling well today. After examining her hands and feet, Zhu concludes that her weakness is a sign of laying pipe for too long. Jinu's guard immediately snaps back and accuses Zhu of spouting nonsense. While Jinu seems very pleased, she then hopes the doctor spreads the rumor across the entire palace, wishing it will make things difficult for consort Jinu. Meanwhile, Changqing is about to take a bath when he suddenly senses that Jinu is plotting against him. Suddenly, Bing appears and suggests they bathe together. Changqing tries to refuse, but Bing says she forgot to bathe yesterday, and that Jinu must be filthy from being mounted like an animal. Changqing has no choice but to agree, so Ba Lang thanks him for all the biology lessons he gave earlier, then suggests they experiment with her sister, leaving Changqing confused about what she means. Bing brushes it off and offers to help wipe his body. Changqing notices Bing is drooling far more than normal. When the situation grows extra steamy, Changqing realizes Bing's true relationship with Jinu. Now he's terrified that if Jinu finds out he bathed with her, she'll have his whole family executed. Changqing decides to endure in silence. But when he looks up, he sees Jinu's bodyguard staring at him and wishes she'd just end his life already. Bing asks Changqing to help wash her hair as usual, but he realizes he needs an escape. He tells her it's time for consort Jinu to return to the Emperor. Bing complains that Jinu has been spending less time with her ever since she became the Emperor's favorite plot hole. Ba Lang's tantrum reminds Changqing of his own little sister, making him realize it's been a long time since he checked on his family. Changqing agrees to wash Bing's hair for a short while and gives her a proper rub. Suddenly, Xiang's palace maid calls out, inviting Jinu to lunch at her chamber. Changqing is surprised because the two consorts aren't close. Bing advises him not to go, saying Xiang must be planning to show off. Changqing figures last night's rumor must have spread, and Xiang is trying to save face. He remembers the last time he met Xiang as the Emperor and wonders what she's really like behind the scenes. Bing asks if he really needs to go, and he assures her he'll be fine. Xiang's maid keeps calling for Jinu, so Changqing appears and tells her to lead the way. Later, when Changqing arrives at Xiang's chamber, he finds her dancing. The maid explains Xiang is busy, but Changqing says he isn't in a hurry. He wants to see what Xiang is planning. When Xiang finishes, Changqing praises her performance. Xiang wonders how Jinnu can be so delighted despite being ignored. She then tells Jinnu that she, Xiang, is the one with real skills that make the emperor skip court and avoid the other consorts. Changqing is startled by this, but Xiang tells him not to pretend to be clueless, since the imperial doctor has revealed the emperor has been doing far too much thrusting. Changqing insists he didn't intend for this to happen and promises they'll all soon be able to serve the emperor again. Xiang then tells Changqing that the other consorts hate him, but if he drinks the medicine in the bowl, she'll make sure they don't cause trouble. She claims it's fertility medicine to help the emperor have a child, but Changqing instantly recognizes it as abortion medicine from his many times purchasing it. Xiang keeps insisting he drink it, but Changqing throws the bowl aside and tells Xiang that her interference in his affairs is none of her business. Xiang becomes offended and orders her maids to arrest him, but Changqing asks why she would send such hideous maids to arrest her. Following Xiang's instructions, the ogres in wigs chase after Changqing, but they can't stop him. When he gets away, he tells Xiang he'll come back to watch her amazing dancing again. Furious, Xiang warns she'll make her regret being so arrogant. Later, Changqing returns to the imperial prison to visit his family in his true form. Inside the prison, the Su family receives a feast for dinner, and they wonder if it's supposed to be their final meal. Changqing's father, Dufu, asks if their execution has been moved up, while his aunt and uncle insist they've been falsely accused. Changqing tells everyone to lower their voices as he reveals his identity, shocking his mother, Yong. Changqing informs them of the emperor's decree to review their case, but his parents assume he's delusional, so they tell him to run away somewhere no one knows him and change his name. Changqing's aunt disagrees, insisting that Changqing is the only one who might clear their names. Dafu points out that his son is about as useful as the gum stuck under his shoe, which sparks an argument with his sister. Then Changqing's cousin, Xingchai, speaks up, agreeing with Dafu that Changqing has zero connections or skills, so relying on him is the same as accepting death. Changqing couldn't believe his own family thought he was useless. However, Xingchai said the best he could do was get his little sister Jingle out of prison, because even at her age, several noble lords were already waiting for her. Jingye reminded Xingchai that Changqing said the emperor ordered their case to be reviewed. Changqing reassures her that the truth will soon come out, while Xingchai warns him to be wary of the powerful people involved. He then suggests that Changqing start investigating the Qin family, but Changqing has never heard of them. Suddenly, he hears footsteps and says he needs to leave. His aunt expects they'll be executed tomorrow, since Changqing is a spoiled brat who can't protect them. At that moment, a prison guard arrives and informs the Su family that the emperor has requested a review of their case. The family can hardly believe it, and Jingle cries tears of joy as she's the only one who truly believes Changqing will save them. Outside the prison, Changqing changes his appearance and asks the guard if their conviction might be overturned. The guard assumes Changqing is new, so he explains that Lord Bio handled the case with solid evidence, making it impossible to reverse. Later, Changqing returns to the emperor's chamber, realizing the Su family's case is far from simple. Lord Bio is one of the 4 envoys of the imperial family, not someone the emperor fully commands. Suddenly, Bing runs out crying. When Changzhen King asks what happened, Bing wails that the emperor defiled her. Changzhen King immediately wonders if Jinnu even has what it takes to bend Bing over. Bing then suggests she should take Changqing's place serving the emperor instead. Changqing figures Jinnu must be tricking the poor dimwit and wonders why Jinnu didn't invite him to watch. Later, Jinnu spots Changqing and asks why he isn't in her chambers. Changqing says he missed her so much he couldn't sleep. Jinnu is pleased and pulls him so close that Changqing starts wondering who actually wears the balls in this arrangement. She stretches her hand toward him and declares that her consort is indeed beautiful. Changqing wonders if it's really allowed to kiss the emperor but fears he'll be beheaded for it. He quickly pulls back and tells Jinnu she should rest since it's getting late. Jinnu pulls his face closer again, insisting she hasn't had enough time looking at him. Changqing points out she's basically flattering herself. Jinnu says she can't resist a kiss, and this time Changqing figures he might as well get some. But before he can, Jinnu says it's time to get back to work. She stares him down and asks whether he seriously thought she'd kiss him, leaving Changqing dying internally from embarrassment. He asks if that's how she defiled Bing. Soju explains that she only made Bing dance wearing just a few scraps of clothing. Changqing imagines it and calls it a scumbag move. Soju insists it's nothing serious since she can dance much better. Changqing asks if he'll get to see her dance, but Jinwoo tells him to finish the memorials first and they'll discuss it later. Changqing complains that his value should at least be more than a dance, but the moment Jinwoo says he doesn't need to watch, Changqing suddenly gains a burning passion for reviewing memorials. The next morning, Changqing finally finishes reviewing them and plans to take a nap. He finds Jinwoo asleep on the bed and can't wait to witness her dance, though for now he settles for sleeping on the floor. Later, Jinwoo gets dressed as the emperor and brags about all the work she finished last night. Changqing accuses her of taking credit for everything, so Jinwoo promises to dance for him after she practices. Later at the Su family inn, Changqing appears in his true form for the retrial. There, Bu asks if it's true the Su family sold inferior goods during the relief effort for charity. When they plead guilty, the witnesses become furious at the sins of the wealthy. Bu also asks if it's true they sold rat meat as lamb, causing the plague, and again they plead guilty. The crowd begins demanding the court annihilate the Su family, leaving Changqing wondering who's targeting them. Bu declares the evidence irrefutable and closes the case, prompting Changqing to rush out to think of a way to stop the case from being filed. He realizes the only way to stall it is if new information surfaces, but how could he spread something that fast? Suddenly, he gets an idea and offers the local gossip guy some tea to help him relax. The fool drinks from a stranger and suddenly needs to take a massive dump. Moments later, Changqing shows up disguised as the gossip man and brings up the Su case. When the crowd shows interest, he claims the last surviving member of the Su family is on the run with evidence that can clear their name. The crowd demands more details, but Changqing fakes another diarrhea attack and runs off. Meanwhile, Bu prepares to present the Su conviction to the emperor when a servant reports that the fugitive Su master has evidence that could clear their name. Bu immediately halts the case and orders an investigation into the rumor. Later, the gossip insists he rushed to the bathroom and got knocked out, leading Bu to assume the fugitive Su master is the one who started the rumor. He orders his men to find Changqing at any cost. At the emperor's chamber, Jinwoo catches Changqing sneaking in and asks where he went. Changqing claims he went to buy her a sweet treat and only took a bite to check for poison. He hands it over, and Jinwoo accepts it but warns he'll be punished if he leaves without reporting next time. Changqing plans to leave when a maid announces that consort Zhang fainted at the door. Jinwoo steps out and reminds Zhang she should have returned to her chambers. Zhang claims consort Jinwoo bullied her and begs for justice. The emperor asks what Jinwoo did, and Zhang makes up a story about asking Jinwoo how to serve the emperor better, only for Jinwoo to throw hot soup at her, which she barely avoided. Jinwoo asks Changqing if that's true, and Changqing denies it, saying Zhang served him an abortion drug. Zhang says he's lying and even presents a dress stained with soup. Changqing says that wasn't the dress she was wearing, but when Jinwoo asks what she did wear, he can't remember. Zhang figures she has the advantage with all the evidence. But the emperor demands to know how she dared to feed his beloved the abortion medicine and then lie about it. Zhang can't believe what she's hearing and accuses the emperor of playing favorites. The emperor asks Zhang how she could harm the one he favors and still expect to live. So Zhang abruptly changes her attitude and pleads for forgiveness for her mistake. Both Yu and Changqing are shocked by her sudden switch in behavior, while Zhang turns to Changqing and asks him to beg for mercy on her behalf. Changqing asks Jinwoo to forgive her, so Jinwoo agrees, yet warns Zhang that if she ever tries something like that again, her life is practically forfeit. Zhang thanks them for their mercy and walks away, while Changqing asks Jinwoo when she intends to keep her promise. Jinwoo tells him her dance can only be seen at night, which gets Changqing excited, but she instructs him to review the memorials first. Changqing decides to trust her one more time and agrees. Meanwhile, at the Imperial Guard, Bu receives a report that there's still no trace of Changqing. Bu becomes furious that his lackey can't even catch a spoiled brat. Later, inside the emperor's chambers, Jinwoo tells Changqing that even an emperor deserves rest and invites him to watch her dance. When Jinwoo gets extra touchy, Changqing begins wondering if his dreams are finally about to come true. Moments later, Jinwoo asks what he thinks of her dance, but since she's standing behind a screen, Changqing realizes he waited all day only to see nothing. Jinwoo asks how he plans to punish her misbehavior, so he tells her to remove the screen so he can get a clear view. Shockingly, Jinwoo obeys, and Changqing wonders why she's acting so strangely. Jinwoo moves close and asks if he wants to dance, causing Changqing to squirm beneath the eclipse of her chest. He tries to wriggle out of it, but Jinwoo insists he can't hope to play a convincing Jinwoo unless he learns how to dance. With that, she offers to teach him and starts bending him around like a straw. She then instructs him that he must form a sisterly bond with Zhang, with himself as the master. Changqing says matters like that should be discussed another time, so Jinwoo agrees to leave him alone for now, but promises to teach him again later. Jinwoo then suggests they exchange details of their daily experiences so they can remain flawless in their impersonation. When Changqing agrees, Jinwoo asks what he did that day. He says he visited some inns and taverns and brought back a treat for Jinwoo. When Jinwoo asks if that was all, Changqing insists his days are always that dull and boring. He then asks how her day went. So Jinwoo explains that in court the officials unanimously submitted a petition demanding the elimination of consort Jinwoo. Changqing asks whether they intended to unalive him or Jinwoo, but Jinwoo replies that it made no difference and insists she refused. She tells Changqing he has to start attending court, but he says he'll be doomed if a commoner like him is caught impersonating the emperor. Jinwoo promises to train him properly but lets him rest for now. The next morning, Changqing wakes up and finds a note from Jinwoo saying she'll be attending court. He laments that his life is constantly in danger now and resolves to stay vigilant so he can escape at the first sign of trouble. Suddenly, Zhang appears, jealous that consort Jinwoo got to spend yet another night with the emperor. Still, she calls her maid to present gifts to Jinwoo. Zhang lays out all her treasured jewelry and asks Changqing to pick something as an apology for her disrespect. Changqing sees that Zhang has spared no expense in sucking up to him, so he calls her his younger sister and chooses a hairpin. Zhang agrees to give it to him, so Changqing promises to remember her kindness and tells her to let him know if she ever needs anything. As he starts to leave, Zhang invites him to her chambers for a long chat, though inwardly she's seething that consort Jinwoo accepted her gift and called herself the older sister. Zhang's servant asks if she's truly okay with giving away the hairpin, but Zhang assures her she won't be taken advantage of that easily. Later, Changqing reports the progress in his relationship with Zhang, and Jinwoo is impressed by how well he handled it. Changqing asks how her day went, and she says it was more of the same, with the officials refusing to stand until she executed consort Jinwoo. Changqing asks if they aren't meddling a bit too much, but Jinwoo explains it's normal. They all want their preferred consort to become empress. Changqing asks what the officials demanded and how she responded, so Jinwoo says they pressured her with threats of retirement, but she ignored them. She then worries about them stirring conflict between Jinwoo and Zhang. Changqing wonders why she would bring that up so suddenly, and assures her nothing intimate is happening with Zhang. But Jinwoo tells him not to flatter himself. Changqing then gives her the hairpin from Zhang, and Jinwoo wonders if it's meant as a bribe. Changqing reminds her that she's the most powerful person in the kingdom and can't be bribed, but he thought she'd like the gift. When she tries it on, Changqing looks satisfied and continues praising her beauty. Jinwoo says she wants to introduce him to the officials, but Changqing realizes she really just wants to drag him to court. He claims he still has memorials to review, but Jinwoo insists there's plenty of time. Moments later, Jinwoo shows him a portrait of Prince Yen, the only prince of non-royal descent and consort Lu's grandfather. Changqing insists he needs to leave and take a bath, but Jinwoo pulls him back and sits on his lap. As Changqing's brain cells scatter like frightened birds, Jinwoo continues explaining Prince Yan's history. Then she shows him a portrait of the current prime minister, father of consort Xia, whom he must pay close attention to. Afterward, Jinwoo tries to leave, but Changqing insists she stay and keep him awake. Jinwoo reminds him he should be more concerned about consort Jinwoo's life, but Changqing pulls her close and guarantees her safety. Jinu relents and says she'll take a short nap on him. Changqing wonders whether it's a trap, but with such a beautiful woman resting on him, it feels like a win-win. As he reviews the memorials, he finds yet another request to execute Jinu, which enrages him. He responds by saying that even wild beasts respect each other's mates. How much more should humans? Lastly, he finds a memorial from B declaring that Su Changqing has been captured and will be executed by noon the following day. Changqing realizes it will be nearly impossible to reopen the case once it's closed, but since he can't reveal his identity, he decides he has no choice but to leave the palace the next day. At court the following morning, Jinu asks the officials if they have any reports. Zhu Hong steps forward and asks the emperor to consider discarding Jinu like an unwanted newborn. The emperor asks what crime Jinu has committed. The other officials accuse Jinu of making the emperor bedridden, which is a grave offense, but the emperor insists he'll deal with it himself and warns them not to mention it again. Hong wonders just how stunning Jinu must be to put the emperor in such a chokehold, but after last night's review, he and the other officials admit to their wrongdoings. Jinu, however, is surprised by how quickly they surrendered and senses something might be off. She realizes she forgot to check last night's review and assumes Changqing must have said something harsh. Meanwhile, in the bustling streets of the capital, Bu prepares to publicly execute the Su family. He orders Changqing to be dragged out. So a young boy resembling the real Changqing is shoved onto the platform, causing Changqing's mother and Jingu to shout in panic. A man in the crowd proclaims it would be a waste to execute Jingu, and another man supports this, saying that by law, the women should be sent to the Bureau of Entertainment. The first man recognizes him as Master Chun. So Chun demands that Jingu be given to him alone and says he's willing to pay any amount. At the same time, Bu concludes that the real Changqing is simply a coward who won't even appear for his own family, so he orders their execution. Just then, Changqing arrives and berates the imperial guards for being incompetent enough to accept a substitute. Bu yells at him furiously, prompting Changqing to accuse him of torturing an innocent man just because he looked similar. Bu states it was merely a tactic to lure him out, but Changqing insists there are no trustworthy officials left and laughs at them. This enrages Bu, who leaps forward to attack, but Changqing calmly dodges every strike and mocks him for having such unimpressive skills. Bu vows to catch him, so Changqing produces a memorial and claims it contains the evidence they've been hunting him for. He tosses it to Bu, who opens it only to find meaningless scribbles. Realizing he has been fooled, Bu growls, and Changqing challenges him to catch him if he dares. At this, Bu hands the memorial to his servants and rushes after Changqing. Moments later, as the servants inspect it, Bu returns and orders them to burn the book. Confused, they hesitate, but Bu snaps at them to destroy it immediately, and they rush off to obey. In reality, this Bu is Changqing in disguise, intending to frame the real Bu as well. Later, at the pacification division, another envoy, King Long, asks why the investigation is being rushed and why they needed a fake Changqing if they supposedly had solid evidence. Bu explains that it was simply a strategy to trap Changqing, but another envoy, Xian Wu, accuses him of making them appear incompetent. King Long then asks about the booklet Changqing left behind, but Bu claims it was entirely blank and useless. When King Long requests he hand it over, Bu orders the servants to bring the book. As the servants attempt to secretly signal Bu, King Long tells them to speak openly. Nervously, they admit that Bu had instructed them to burn the book and keep quiet about it. Bu denies it immediately and nearly knocks out their teeth before King Long forces them to sit. King Long asks whether the book contained anything, and the servants say no, though it appears some pages had been torn out. Bu insists this was part of Changqing's ploy and swears he never ordered them to burn it. Xian Wu questions how Bu could fail to capture Changqing, making Bu wonder if they're beginning to suspect him. King Long ends the argument and announces that Bu is no longer in charge of the Su family case. He will oversee it personally. Since Bu cannot be ruled out as a suspect, he orders Xian Wu to keep watch over him. Outraged, Bu vows to capture Changqing at any cost. Back in the emperor's chamber, Jinu is looking through some books when Changqing arrives with more treats. Noticing she's in a bad mood, He asks if something happened in court again. He displays some special chestnuts for her, but she questions how she's supposed to eat something so hard. Changqing offers to peel them, so Jinwoo teases him for wanting to feed her and lets him try. But when he moves to put it in her mouth, she bites him. Changqing calls her ruthless for biting him, but she counters that he's the ruthless one for abandoning her all day. He asks her to stay by his side like she did last night, but she skillfully dodges the request. She then tells him he will accompany her to court the next day. The following morning, Changqing acts as the emperor's guard as Jinwoo attends court. Su Hong reports the incident at the Su family execution, including Changqing's sudden appearance with supposed evidence. Changqing wonders if Su Hong is about to plead for his family, but instead Su Hong explains that the 4 envoys allowed Changqing to declare that there were no reliable officials, so they deserve punishment. Hearing this, Jinwoo declares that Changqing must be captured and publicly executed, shocking him. Su Hong agrees but insists the envoys must also be held responsible. Prince Yen supports this, and soon the rest of the ministers join in demanding their punishment. Jinwoo offers to investigate the envoys herself, but the ministers insist they cannot proceed unless she makes a decisive ruling. Before she can answer, Prince Yen supports her recommendation and calls for Changqing's execution to quiet public unrest. Changqing recalls that Yen is Jinwoo's half-brother, but assumes he's merely hiding his real intentions. Yen asks for temporary command over the envoys so he can capture Changqing, and Jinwoo grants permission. Later, Changqing remarks that Jinwoo is in a dangerous position, though he doubts anyone can outwit her. He points out that Yen obviously plans to seize control of the envoys and questions whether trusting him is wise. Jinwoo replies that even if they capture Changqing, he would probably die unexpectedly, causing Yen to lose his influence over the envoys. Changqing then suggests reorganizing the envoys and clearing the Su family's name. Jinwoo comments that he seems very invested in the Su family, but Changqing grabs her and insists he only cares about whatever benefits her. Jinwoo quickly shoves him away and reminds him he's supposed to be playing the role of a guard. Changqing blames her beauty for awakening the dragon in his pants. And in response, Jinwoo promises to show him something even more beautiful later, telling him to get changed. Changqing feels relieved, until Jinwoo adds that no matter what becomes of the Su family, Changqing must die, leaving him horrified. Later, in the garden, Changqing poses as the emperor when Jinwoo arrives in a dress that leaves him speechless. She notices someone watching from afar and sits on Changqing's lap, prompting him to immediately play along and greet her affectionately. They begin flirting as usual, and Jinwoo warns him to behave himself. She then turns to Changqing and asks him to paint a picture for her. Changqing replies that he's better with poetry, so Jinwoo tells him to express his feelings through a poem instead. Changqing warns her that the other consorts might grow even more jealous, but Jinwoo insists that he can't be that good. Determined to prove her wrong, Changqing writes a poem on the spot. When Jinwoo reads it, she asks if he's this skilled because he's been using poetry to flirt with other women. However, Changqing swears he was only inspired by her beauty. Suddenly, Violing arrives and asks what they're doing. Jinwoo rushes to show off her poem, and when Bing reads it, she can't believe a creep like the emperor could be so smooth. Violing assumes Jinwoo must be enchanted by the emperor's words, especially when Jinwoo asks to have the poem back. Jinwoo laments that there's only one poem, which makes Changqing think she must be hinting at something. He offers to write her another one, and Jinwoo promises to thank him properly at night. When Bing sees them making googly eyes at each other, she figures Jinwoo is finished for sure. Moments later, Jinwoo blushes over another poem while Changqing simps over her beauty, and Beiling watches like a third wheel on Valentine's Day. She warns Jinwoo not to be fooled by the emperor's insincere words. Jinwoo worries Bing thinks her beauty doesn't deserve such praise, so she tells Changqing to write 10 more poems until Bing believes he's sincere. Changqing assures her he could never get tired of singing her praises. Just then, Consort Luo shows up with some snacks for the emperor. Jinwoo tells her she arrived just in time since the emperor must be hungry after writing so many poems. Jinwoo says she's been wanting to try Luo's snacks for a while and shoves one of the cookies into her mouth. She commends Luo, who is barely holding back the urge to slap her. Jinwoo then offers some cookies to Changqing, who thanks her for personally feeding him. Luo can't believe her own cookies are helping Jinwoo win more favor with the emperor, so she tries to save face by announcing how much he loves her cooking. Luo offers to send some to Jinwoo so she doesn't pig out on the emperor's goodies. Jinwoo instead asks for the recipe. Luo panics since the snacks were actually made in the imperial kitchen, so she changes the subject to the poems and asks to see them. Luo reads the masterpiece and asks if the emperor truly managed to put so much riz on a page. She wonders how she never knew about his talents, so Jinwoo explains that he wrote them specially for her. Getting jealous, Luo asks the emperor to write her one as well, but before he can answer, Jinwoo gives him the death stare, making him reconsider. Luo complains that he's too partial to Jinwoo, but Jinwoo assures her that the emperor is just tired from bending over backward to please her. She even offers to give him a massage. Seeing this, Luo finally gives up and storms off. Later that night, Jinwoo asks Changqing for more poems, but he says he's fresh out of ideas. Jinwoo asks if he's saving his ink for the most beautiful girl in the capital, consort Luo. Changqing assures her that the so-called beauty is only fit to carry Jinwoo's shoes. Once Jinwoo is satisfied with the flattery, she tells him to get some rest and tries to leave. But Changqing reminds her of the reward she promised him for all those poems. Jinwoo claims she's too tired to remember, but Changqing insists it's been a while since he last saw her dance. When Jinwoo still refuses, Changqing lets her rest so he can check on the Su family case. Suddenly, Jinwoo kisses Changqing on the cheek and tells him to rest well. Changqing becomes flustered, wondering if this is her way of making it up to him, so he thanks her for the gesture. Pleased, Jinwoo breaks the news that he has to attend court the next day, and Changqing snaps back to reality. The next morning in court, Su Hong praises the emperor for his literary riz, while Changqing is shocked the rumors spread so far. But Ju Hong warns the poems could damage the emperor's reputation and suggests Jinwoo be expelled from the palace. Changqing gives him a freezing glare and vows to expel the next person who suggests getting rid of Jinwoo. The whole court is stunned, while Changqing plans to leave the mess for Jinwoo to deal with. He then asks Prince Yen about the Su family investigation. Yen says he entrusted the Bu envoy with it. Upon hearing this, Changqing decides he'll need to meet the envoy himself. Later, Bahu receives a message summoning him to meet Prince Yen, but when he arrives, Changqing is impersonating the prince. Bu informs him they'll surely capture Changqing before the execution tomorrow. When Bahu apologizes for slipping up while eliminating the Su family, Changqing realizes the prince must be trying to erase all evidence. Bu then hands him the confiscated assets of another family and promises to seize more from other wealthy families. Changqing deduces that Yen must be gathering wealth and framing rivals. Bu asks for his command, so Changqing orders him to present evidence clearing their name on the day of the execution. When Bahu asks why the plan changed, Changqing explains he's giving Bu a chance to earn the emperor's favor by opposing the prince. Bu agrees to act as an undercover agent, so Changqing tells him to wait for his signal from now on. Later, Changqing sneaks back into the emperor's chamber and is surprised Jinwoo isn't there. He asks the servant who visited, and she says many consorts stopped by, including Xia, who sent food, yet Jinwoo never showed up. Changqing wonders what this means and heads to her chamber. There, Changqing asks why she didn't visit, and Jinwoo says she didn't want to interrupt if he had someone else with him tonight. Changqing insists she's the only one he sees and asks her to return with him. She agrees. On the way, Jinwoo says she's cold and tells Changqing to carry her. Changqing warns it might be inappropriate if others see, but Jinwoo reminds him she's supposed to be the only one in his eyes. Changqing gives in and carries her. Jinwoo then asks what he did all day, and Changqing claims he stayed in his chambers resting and refused all visitors, even Xia's food. He turns to Jinwoo and says the moonlight makes her beauty stand out even more. Jinwoo asks if he was trying to kiss her, and when he admits it, she tells him he'll have to show his true face first. Changqing wonders if she's trying to lure him into revealing his identity, so he points out that anyone could easily see them. Jinwoo tells him to take her somewhere more secluded, but Changqing suddenly remembers he still has memorials he must attend to. Jinu climbs down and says she wants to stay outside with him a bit longer. She then leans in for a kiss and asks if he wants to finish what they started earlier. Changqing struggles to resist the temptation, but Jinu insists that he'd need to show his real face if he wants anything more. Changqing considers transforming into a random face, but when Jinu reveals it would be her first time, he feels guilty for even thinking of deceiving her. Instead, he suggests they head inside and rest. Since Changqing refuses to be honest with her, Jinu agrees to return and tells him to focus properly on the memorials. As they leave, Changqing starts planning how to solve his family's case so he can leave the palace as soon as possible. Jinu then tells Changqing she'll attend court as the emperor while he reassures the other consorts. The next day, Changqing visits Bing in her chambers. Bing insists that the emperor must be brainwashing her and suggests Jinu should stay over with her for a while. When Changqing imagines them sharing a bed, he briefly considers it, until he imagines Jinu's deadly glare and immediately changes his mind. Bing wonders if Jinu has truly fallen for the emperor. When Changqing asks for a favor, he requests that she testify he's been in her chambers if he's ever discovered missing from his own. Bing promises to keep his secret. With that, Changqing prepares to deal with Prince Yen properly. Is Jinu playing Changqing, or is she genuinely beginning to fall for him? The next day, we see Bai Hu greeting a new character who is known to be a prince. The prince orders Bai Hu to hurry up and pass judgment, and this white hair sucker, following the command, exclaimed that it was time for the Su family to be executed. And with that intent, he orders his subordinates to bring forth the prisoners. The villain prince, seeing that the job was almost done, felt joyful in his mind. But when the prisoners came out, they turned out to be the members of Chan clan, not the Su, which made the prince catch up in pure shock. Bai Hu loudly explained that the true mastermind behind the crimes was the Chun family, not the Sus. Rather, the Su family was framed in this case. Mr. Villain Prince, clearly angry with his actions, exclaimed, "Who told you to capture them?" Bai Hu, confused, mentioned, "Wasn't it your highness?" Although all of this was orchestrated by Changqing, he was still enjoying every bit of drama going on the stage. The prince, pissed off with Bu, starts cursing him worthless, useless at succeeding, but always managing to ruin everything. Unable to do anything, he starts playing according to the situation. He orders the wrongdoer and the real culprits to be punished. Seeing their fate was going to be sealed, a Chan family member mentioned, "Wise prince, regarding the Su family matter, the commoners acted according to your orders." Feeling that he was going to be caught in this mess, he hurriedly ordered the guards to neutralize the threats quickly. After giving this command, he looked towards Bai Hu and asked him, "Have you already let the Su family go?" Which Bai Hu answers in the affirmative. He adds, "But your majesty, the Su family was indeed wrongfully accused." With the anger of the prince and the murmurs of the crowd, the court comes to an end. Now, coming to Consort Bai's bedroom, she was practicing the zither with all her heart. Suddenly, Consort Jinyue appeared. Seeing her, Bai smiled, "Sister, you're back?" Jinyue spoke, "Little sister, guess where I just went?" Bia, acting according to their prior arrangement, answers, "Hasn't my sister been with me all along, discussing music, chess, calligraphy, and paintings?" Jinyue, caught off guard, mentions, Yes, little sister is right, I was with her all along." Because he was absent all day, he was trying hard to find more witnesses for everyone to believe that she was here all this time. And by talking with her, he figured out he needed more witnesses of him being here. As he was swimming in the sea of deep thinking, Bai called her sister, "Shall we go out for a stroll and clear our minds?" Jinyue answers in the affirmative. "Sure. Where would you like to go, sister?" Jinyue, not getting any answer from her, he suggested, "Let's go find Consort Xiang," which at first got an angry reaction from her. But after thinking for a few minutes, she changed her thoughts. Now acting all coquettish, she says, her sister has been getting along well with Consort Xiang recently. Thinking for a few moments, she also mentioned Consort Xiang's Nobel position could be helpful to deal with other jealous consorts. So it's a good plan. However, Sister Xiang won't be joining us, will she? MC, understanding her thought, replies, "Are you worried that if I get too close to Consort Xiang, I might forget about little sister? Then let me assure you, don't worry, sister will never forget you. But inwardly, he thinks it's just so consort Xiang can see us together. Or how could I leave you behind? While they were talking, consort Xiang approached them and commented, as the rumors say, the Bai clan is indeed pure and flawless. Touching her hair, she mentioned, little sister, your flawless silver hair truly makes others envious. Bai, complimenting her back, says, you were born noble and beautiful, which I can never compare to. Xiang also compliments her by mentioning that she was being humble and too generous with her praise. Seeing their back and forth complimenting of each other, MC concludes that women really have multiple sides to them. Letting a deep sigh, he thinks that it's not really his business anymore. Xiang, smiling and liking towards consort Jingyue comments. Speaking of natural beauty, who could compare to Sister Zhou? Her figure is full and well-proportioned. Her waist is slender and graceful, and even her skin is flawless, as if it were glass. Surely, no man could resist liking her. Hearing Xiang's compliment of Jingyue, MC touches her face and thinks, I must admit she does feel quite nice to touch. Man, look at the irony, he is pretending to be a girl for such a long time, and after hearing a compliment from someone else, he touches her body part for the first time. Something feels fishy. Either he is a saint or acting as a girl for such a long time has rendered his machine useless. Let me know your thoughts. And after that, both of them started touching her here and there, much to her embarrassment. After feeling Jingyue for a while, Xiang suggests a shared bath for the three of them together, which for a moment got him totally off guard. And without giving any second thoughts to it, he starts rejecting their plan. MC, feeling the situation to be sticky and stiff, started looking for ways to get out of here. As he was trying to squirm out of this tense moment, both of her companions found her behavior suspicious. So, to have a sisterly bonding period between them, both Xiang and Bai started love-bombing him with affection. Seeing no way out of this situation, he finally gave in to their demands. In a few moments, all of them got ready for their girl time. When Bai asked Xiang if the special bath that she was going to prepare would be amazing, which she answered in the affirmative, of course. Would I ever lie to you? Bai, witnessing Jinyue's silence, mentioned, Sister, why aren't you saying anything? Lying alone over there is no fun at all. But Jinyue, feeling the potent effect of the medicinal bath, decided to take a nap in between the bath. Closing his eyes, he immediately started thinking, I must endure. I can't do anything inappropriate, otherwise, if Crown Prince Jingyu finds out, I'm done for. Damn it, can someone tell me who is the sketch artist of this manhwa? I'm pretty sure he is an ex-hen manhwa addict. Or how else could you explain the boldness drawn in here? Anyway, as MC was determined to stay committed to his oath for this no-nuts November, Bai suddenly jumped over his face while exclaiming, it really is comfortable. Let's enjoy it together, Sister Zhou. Come on, don't be so shy. Let me scrub your back for you. Xiang, from the other side of the bath, comments, it looks like Sister Bai Ling and Sister Zhou really have a great relationship, which both of them confirmed to be true. Bai adds, in the Daxia dynasty, my sister Zhou is my only family. Xiang confesses that Zhou is my sister as well. So from now on, Sister Bai Ling is my sister too. Bai, hugging her, mentioned, so from now on, I'm gonna call you Sister Xiang. MC, seeing the girlishness of the two girls, thinks to himself, what did I do in my past life to deserve this torment? Xiang, coming close to Jinyue, commented, Sister, you are naturally so beautiful, and after the medicinal bath, His Majesty will surely be more captivated. By pouting, mentioned just seeing Sis Zhou makes him droll, who even needs a medicinal bath. Acting all surprised, Xiang says, really? Is His Majesty truly that head for heels for his sister? Bai, Aunt's red sister fragrance, you have no idea that scoundrel of an emperor torments Sister Zhou with. Xiang, finding this story truly curious, exclaimed in surprise, oh my, I knew His Majesty to be one of the most restrained. Never did I know he had such a preference. Jinyue, hearing their conversation, smiles and thinks that Sister Xiang is trying to gather information, so she can cater to the emperor and his desires. Breaking his deep thinking, he shouted Inug, We must not speak recklessly about His Majesty behind his back. Giving a fairy-like look, Jinhua stood from the bath. She reminded them it's getting late. I should head back now. After Jinue's proposal, Bai told her sister, why don't you stay in my chamber tonight? I shall have so much I want to talk to you about. Xian, being even bolder, proposed to share a bed, just the three of them. MC, feeling he had enough visits to the nearby milk factory, denounced the idea, and oh no, I can't handle this anymore. And somehow ending the bath session, he tried to sneak from the bathhouse. But the emperor caught him in his act. Seeing him leave sneakily, she ordered her to stop and to come here. She coquettishly asked him, my beloved consort, you've returned quite early today. Smiling, he answered, I was trying to make consort Bai and Xiang get along, and I think it has been pretty successful. Acting all curious, Jinhua asked him, oh, and how exactly did you strengthen these relationships of theirs? He explained, I first spent some time in consort Bai's chamber, then took her to consort Xiang's chamber. We chatted about daily life until now. This was all. And in between his speaking, he thought it's best not to mention the bathing part. And as he was thinking this and that, an unexpected proposal of taking a bath with Jinhua came to him. Well, at first he was shocked out of his mind hearing her proposal, but after a few moments getting his shit back, he thought, strange, why is she being so generous today? Jinhua, again shocking him, started calling him Your Majesty. Come into the bath. Shocked for the second time because of her sudden swap of character, he replied, my beloved consort, isn't it improper for a man and woman to be so intimate? But even after his complaints, Jinhua showed no reaction, which instead made MC more ashamed of himself. Blushing, he thinks to himself, this must be another trap. I can't fall for it. Jinyu, adding more shame to his already ashamed self, mentioned, as an emperor who claims to practice restraint, yet your body is covered in the scent of your consort's rouge. Do you think this is appropriate? So, hurry up and wash it off. Man, when you see her teasing him, why does it feel like she has the balls among them? Even though that's not the case. MC, thinking long and hard about her reasoning, concludes that this reason seems impossible to refute. So what should I do now? And after thinking for a few moments, he gave in to her insistence. Getting into the bath, he sat on the other side of the bath, and you can clearly see the distance is nearly the same as you and your non-existing imaginary girlfriend. Jinhua, seeing his distancing comments, why are you staying so far away from me? Come and sit beside me. Following her comment, he got up from his place in order to sit next to her. But when Jinhua gave a closer look at his body, she found it already cleaned. So she asks, so clean, did you take a bath earlier? Damn, this guy got caught doing double timing with multiple women, and not just to anyone, to the emperor whom holds his lifeline. So let's see what happens next. And about the love between Jinhua and Changqing, is she playing him? Or has she really fallen for him? Let's see it in the next part.